very good morning. Uh, let's see. Today we are going to start with this new chapter, a bearing capacity of soil, which is very important chapter as far as geotechnical engineering is concerned. As we have seen, this is the last module of our geotechnical lecture series. What is exactly a bearing capacity of soil? If you see in this picture, there is a ground, and there is this ground has been supported structure. So basically, if I take the bearing capacity in terms of this, then in a crude definition, that is, I can say it is the supporting power of the soil or the rock to the structure, which I refer to as bearing capacity. Right now, we are going to see now several definitions which actually make it clear. Like for an example, suppose I'm taking one foundation which is having a width B, and the depth of the foundation I'm supposed to say it is a DF. This is my ground level, right? And I'm trying to define several definition. Like you can say here the foundation, which is the whole part of the structures which actually transfer the load of superstructure to the soil. And if I take the footing, that is this part, this is the footing part where actually the footing is in the direct contact with the ground, right? Now you need to come to the third definition, which is the gross pressure. Very important. So gross pressure is nothing but it is the total pressure at the base of the footing due to the weight of superstructure plus self weight of the footing and the weight of earth fill, if any. Like for example, if I want to consider what is the pressure at the base of this particular footing, then I need to consider the weight of three things. First is the weight of superstructure will come to this particular footing part. Second is the own weight of foundation will come. And once you fill up the excavation of this particular foundation, this soil weight is also going to come onto this particular foundation. If you sum it up and divide it by the area of the foundation, then you will get the gross pressure intensity. And the notation I will give for this gross pressure intensity is generally a Q, right? Small q. Then it comes to the net pressure intensity. So it is defined as excess pressure or the difference in the intensities of gross pressure after the construction of the structure and the original overburden pressure. So basically, from the gross pressure intensity, if you remove the weight of soil, means the weight of overburden, like if suppose I will actually do this particular weight of overburden is gamma into this particular depth, if I remove it, or the depth of foundation, if I remove it, then I will get the net pressure. If it is divided by the footing area, then I will get the net pressure intensity. Is it okay? Then that particular thing notation has been given Q, and N is for the net pressure intensity. Now from the pressure intensity, I am shifting to the bearing capacity. Now what is exactly the difference in bearing capacity and pressure? See, when I am defining my ultimate bearing capacity, the notation given for ultimate bearing capacity is QU in some book. In some book refers the notation which is QF. You can take any of this notation. I will generally refers to the QU. That is my ultimate bearing capacity. Please. So this is, see that, what is that? It is the minimum gross pressure intensity at the base of the foundation at which the shear failure in the soil occurs is called as ultimate bearing capacity. Now just see what is exactly the difference between this definition and this definition. So when I am saying the pressure intensity, it is the same. It is the weight of superstructure, weight of self weights, gross weight. That is, it counts as the gross pressure. But while I'm referring to the bearing capacity, the bearing capacity should be associated with the shear failure of the foundation. As this particular pressure intensity is increasing, right? It is increasing slowly. At the same time, when at a minimum gross pressure intensity, which is the combination of weight of superstructure, self-weight, and the overburden, it will reach to the point of critical failure at which the shear failure happens. So at that minimum particular gross pressure intensity where the shear failure is going to be initiated, or when the critical condition established, that particular point of gross pressure intensity we are termed as ultimate bearing capacity. I hope it is clear now. Second, from gross pressure intensity, we are coming to the net pressure intensity. So as we are saying, net means you need to remove the pressure of overburden. So basically, again, the definition is same. It is the minimum net pressure intensity causing shear failure of the soil. So in the net pressure, we have already taken, that is, we have removed the overburden pressure. So in this case also we do the same. So basically, if you see the Q and U, which is net ultimate bearing capacity, is equal to ultimate bearing capacity, which is a combination of gross pressure intensity minus overburden. Then you will get net pressure intensity. Sorry. So this is QU minus gamma into depth of foundation. From new net bearing capacity, I will come to the now net safe bearing capacity. Please understand all this definition. It is very, very important to solve any problems of bearing capacity. You need to understand this particular fundamentals very well. So this is net safe bearing capacity. I am giving the notation to this is QNS, net safe bearing capacity. So this is, it is the ultimate bearing capacity, net ultimate bearing capacity divided by the factor of safety. If I divide the net ultimate bearing capacity, which is the Q and U, by some factor of safety, I will get the safe bearing capacity. So in general, as the code recommends, the factor of safety value for this is in the range of 2.5 to 3. If it is not given in the data, you can take either 2.5 or 3 depending upon the condition exists, or else if the condition given, you need to give, you can say that particular factor of safety. The fourth definition is now reverse. We are going from net safe bearing capacity to we are going for safe bearing capacity. So as we are going to safe bearing capacity, basically you need to increase now overburden pressure. So the maximum pressure, up till now we are talking about the minimum pressure. Now it is the maximum pressure at which the soil can carry safely without the risk of failure. Means as the load is increasing on the failure slowly, at the maximum point at which it can take, you can say the maximum load before the failure, that particular pressure is called as safe bearing capacity. Means what I need to do is, if I take QNS, this QNS plus overburden pressure, which is gamma into dF, which will give me a safe bearing capacity value. Or you can take Q and U divided by F, which is nothing but is a QNS plus the value of gamma into dF, which is my overburden pressure, which will denote me a safe bearing capacity, and its notation is QS. Now let us go further. Now I will say the safe bearing capacity or the net soil pressure for the specified settlement. Generally, the safe bearing capacity is being found out for two conditions. One is for shear failure and other is found out considering the settlement. These two things you need to consider in mind while you are finding out the safe bearing capacity. So the first safe bearing capacity, what we have defined here, which is based on shear criteria, as the foundation is going to be pale in shear. Based on that criteria, this particular you can say the equation is being put. Now this safe bearing capacity or the safe bearing capacity pressure is based on specified value of settlement. So basically in a foundation or any structures, when you are putting, you are allowing certain value of settlement. for different structures, you can allow the different value of settlement. As you can say, if you have a high story building, you can allow more settlement. If you have, you can see the different types of structure. Based upon that, there is IS aspects. Our Indian standard has specified the different value of you can say the settlement, and that is been allowable settlement. So basically, it is the intensity of loading which cause a permissible settlement or the specified settlement of the structures. Then whatever the value of load it can take or the pressure it can take, that particular pressure we are terming as safe bearing capacity, say pressure, or net soil pressure, considering the specified settlement. Similarly, from this two, I will define one more value of this, which is called as the allowable bearing capacity or the pressure, which I will put in terms of QA. It is nothing but it is the net loading intensity at which the neither soil fail in shear nor in excessive settlement. In both the condition, it will be safe. Means you need to take the value which is corresponding to both the values. So basically, it is the minimum of these two values, which is the safe bearing pressure related to shear value and the safe bearing pressure related to the settlement. This both the values you are going to consider, and right, both the values you need to consider, and you need to term as QA. Now I will take some questions. The question is raised: when to use shear or the settlement bearing capacity? Yeah. So basically, you need to find out the bearing capacity based on the shear criteria. That is the first. Second, you need to also calculate the bearing capacity based on the settlement criteria. Both the values you need to calculate, and from the both the values you need to see under which condition the particular structure will going to be safe. So basically, you are going to suggest the allowable bearing pressure, which is the combining of these two, both the factors, right? So you need to calculate, you can see the both the things separately, unless and until it is asked specifically. I hope it is clear. Let us go further. So I will actually again put the summary of this, whatever we have discussed. I have started with my gross pressure intensity. Gross pressure intensity is nothing but it is the total pressure which is comprising of superstructure load, foundation own weight, plus the load of soil while you are filling up the excavation, divided by the area of soil, which give you the gross pressure. While you are considering net pressure, basically you are going to subtract the value of overburden pressure and divided by the area. Now, when you are referring from pressure intensity to the bearing capacity, the failure which comes into the picture. So at the minimum value of the pressure at which the soil is failed or soil will reach in the critical conditions of the failure, at this particular point, either it is in gross pressure, which refers to the ultimate. If it is refers to the net pressure, then it refers to the net bearing capacity. And based on this, you define this two definition, which is QU and QNU, in which you have subtracted the value of gamma DF, which is the overburden. Then you are coming to the net safe bearing capacity. Safe bearing capacity, when you are using the word safe, it means you need to consider the value of conservations, and the conservation we will actually put in terms of factor of safety. So basically, when you are dividing the value of Q and U with the factor of safety, you will get the net safe bearing capacity. So Q and U divided by F, you will get Q and S. Now in the Q and S, when you are adding this particular gamma into DF, you will get the safe bearing capacity with shear failure. Similarly, you need to calculate the shear bearing failure with help of the settlement, and based upon this two value, you can actually calculate the value of allowable, right, which will be having to both the considerations of this. Okay, I hope this is clear. One more question: when to use the shear or settlement bearing capacity, don't we have to consider the minimum value of bearing capacity? Yes, you need to consider, but which terms as allowable bearing capacity, not the safe bearing capacity. Okay. Okay, let's go further. Now, I will start with the shear criteria, and first we will discuss the various modes of failure, which is very, very important. There are three different types of failure generally seen in the foundation when it is fail in shear. The first failure mode is called as general shear criteria. Second criteria, which is called as local shear criteria, and third criteria, which is known as punching shear area. Now, while you are drawing this particular curve, or while you are actually estimating the curve for all three failures, you need to draw in a one single graph. Then and then you can able to differentiate between all three failures. As it is drawn three different graph, you can see one is here, one is here. So probably this will not serve the purpose. You cannot compare those things in a single platform. However, just for the explanation for the slides, it has been shown differently. For the examination point of view, or for the compare on a single platform, you need to draw the single graph which comprises of all three failures. Okay, first let us see what is those failure is. So if I consider this is my footing or the foundation, which gives the load in this direction, in a downward direction, and transfer the load of superstructure to the ground. Now, when it is transferring the load to the ground, generally this type of failure mechanism will going to see. This particular failure mechanism is been given by Terzaghi, and he has said when the failure happens, there are three types of basic failure mechanism happens. First, the foundation will actually, this kind of wedge failure will happens. This is the first mode of failure. Second is, this is a zone, you can see these two zones, which is called as the zone of radial shear. You can see from this center it will having a uniform radius. So this particular zone of radial shear, and if you see this is the third part, this is the third part, this is called as zone of linear shear. So this way the failure below the ground will going to happen. We will see this in more detail while we are discussing the Terzaghi's theory of failure. But for time being, you just imagine this three type of failure will occur. Now as you are going to give a load, when this particular general shear will going to happen. The first is if there is a sudden or the catastrophic failure is happening, then means there is a sudden load or the catastrophic failure will occur. Second, significant settlement happen upon the loading. Third is, sorry, I think I removed this. Again, I'm repeating. Sudden or the catastrophic failure is occurred. Well-defined failure surface, you can see, if you see there is a well-defined failure surface has been actually seen here below the ground. This is very important. Bulging of the ground surface adjacent to the foundation is going to take place. This is a common type of failure in the case of dense sand. So generally general shear failure happens when your soil is highly dense. So if suppose, just imagine if your soil is very, very dense, if your soil is dense, okay, in this condition, what will happen? If you give the load from here, you will not have enough void space between the particle because the particles are densely packed. And if you give the load from the top, what will happen is the particle first try to move in this vertical direction along this particular wedge. It will, since you can say there is no space, so the voids may have a minimum compression, and then after it will give the load to the other particle which is on this side. Again, this particle is also densely packed, which will having a minimum compression, and then the load will transfer to this zone of linear shear. Now, where is the space? This is also densely packed, so the bulging will happen on the surface. You can see this large bulging in this case. So that is the case of general shear failure. So generally it is happening in the case of dense soil. This is very, very important. Okay. And if you draw the curve, then this curve will be seen like this. This is the load value, that is the load divided by area, versus this is the settlement value. And if you plot this, then you will get this way the linear curve, then it reaches to the maximum, and then it is slowly dissipate in this way and then becomes the constant. So this is the in general graph which has been developed, or the shape of the graph will be developed in the case of general shear failure. This is a qualitative examples I am giving. Later on we will discuss the quantitative stuff of this general shear failure. This is a local shear failure. What is exactly going to happen? So if this is the same foundation, same type of modes of failure I'm assuming. So in this case, it is common in the dense sand or the clay with the medium compaction. General shear will happen in the dense soil. This is with the medium compaction. So significant settlement before, upon the loading, as you are giving the load, there is a significant settlement is going to happen because the void space is more in comparison to the general shear failure conditions, as the soil is medium compacted. Failure surface first develop right below the surface, right below the foundation, and then slowly extend laterally and outward with the increment of the load. Again, it is refers to the medium compaction. So the void space is larger. It can actually accommodate more compression and so on. So foundation moment shows sudden jerk first at Q1. So basically when it reaches to the yield point, and then after considerable amount of sleep, you may reach to the ground. If you see this curve, it is reaching like this, it will reach to the maximum, and then it will be having a constant settlement. This is, we are saying, is a failure. Unless in this graph, if you see, it will reach to the peak and then the load is decreasing and then the settlement. While in this, you can see this is increasing and you can say constant. It becomes constant. Why? Because as you are giving the load from here, since the void space between this is more in comparison to general shear failure conditions. So first the soil will compress downwards. Still, if you have a more load, then it will give the load in a lateral outward direction. Still, there is a void space is much larger relatively. So again, it will accommodate some compression and then it will move to the linear direction. And if still the load is higher, then the some bulging will going to happen. And you will get this kind of particular curve. If I see the third condition, that is the punching shear failure, it is generally in the case of loose soil or loose sand or the soft clay, where the void space is much higher in comparison to the previous two conditions. The failure surface does not extend beyond the zone right beneath the foundation, because as you see here, as you are giving the load, since the void space is so large, it can be having an excessive settlement. So the load is not been able to transfer laterally, because whatever this is happening, excessive compression will going to take place. So basically the settlement is very much larger, and so that this load is not transferred to the other failure modes, and so that the other modes of failure will not going to happen. So there is no bulging will actually see on the surface, right? Excessive settlement as the wedge shaped zone in the elastic equilibrium beneath the foundation. Vertical shear happen around the edges of the foundation, and after reaching the failure, load settlement curve continuous at the slope. So this is what the conditions. So first, general shear failure happens in a dense soil. Medium soil conditions, you will have a local shear failure, and if you have a very loose soil, you will have a punching shear failure condition. If I draw the graph for all three, then this is for general shear. This is for general shear. Now, if I draw the same graph in the case of local shear, then my graph will be looking like this. It will be reaching to the maximum. You can see these 2 points never meet, but it will be the same. You can say this is a residual condition. This is my local shear condition. And the third condition, which is my punching shear, if I draw on a same graph, then it will be like this. So this is my punching shear conditions. So this is going to happen. You can see, even if you compare the load, then you will realize this is a maximum load, then the minimum. At minimum load, the excessive settlement is going to happen, and gradually you can actually see the difference in all three. So I will stop here. If you have any questions, you may post on this particular chat box. I'm very happy to answer all the questions. Thank you very much.